The Reverend Rice has been preaching to the St. Louis community for decades. He also knew the Reverend Jesse Jackson personally and helped with his presidential campaign right here in St. Louis. When he heard the news, he said, a giant has fallen.
It's a great loss to me personally as well as to our communities.
As a young pastor during the civil rights movement, Rice felt called to activism exemplified by faith leaders like Reverend Jackson.
After getting to know him a little bit, he's just a regular person.
So when Jackson launched his presidential campaign, Rice was ready. Obviously, you felt some of that energy or some kind of connection.
No doubt about it. As we talk, I can feel the energy of making a difference.
Which he says Jackson championed, supporting all Americans, fixing housing problems, and improving government.
Keep hope alive.
Well, what was it like running his campaign here in St. Louis? And what was it like to see him running for president and stopping in St. Louis?
It was a major thing for us. He used the local church and local pastors as his base. He would fire us up with his speeches and all, and then we would go out. We'd go door to door to passing out his literature and that kind of thing. It was such an honor to see a African American running for president, and we were all into it, yeah. My
last name is Martinez, and I don't often see Hispanic people running for president. What was it like, especially Reverend Jackson, in that era to run for president?
It was a fulfilling feeling to know that hey, we do count and we do make a difference, and how could this be, and will it happen?
Even with the odds against him, Jackson's leadership and hope was a guiding light.
Our Moses at the time, Dr. King first, and then he sort of picked it up, and we want to keep the work going. We want to keep hope alive.
If you could say anything to the Reverend Jackson, what would that have been?
Rest in peace. I would tell him that he fought a good fight, and he can be assured that this is one preacher that will do all I can to help finish his work. That's what I'd tell him. He can count on me.
I believe that. Well, what would finishing his work look like?
It would look like what happened on the bridge yesterday, that all God's children had a fair, equal opportunity. The immigrants would be treated with respect and dignity, that the African American community would continue to make viable contributions to this country, to making it the country that it's supposed to be.
We fight for justice and fairness.
Some of the problems that existed then are still existing today, and that's what's amazing, that you have to continue, even though we've had a black president and now, but it seems as though that the struggle becomes more and more prevalent in these days than they were then.
And I remember very vividly when President Obama was elected. I remember the shot. I know that it was in several news photographs and videos and things, but just Reverend Jackson crying when President Obama was standing in front of during Inauguration Day. I mean, what was that like for you, having helped Reverend Jackson then?
President Obama, it was wishful hoping that we would get Jesse Jackson in. I guess deep in our minds, we knew it was sort of far afield, but with President Obama, we felt like this can really happen.
I ask you what you think the legacy of the Reverend is going to be moving forward. I know you were talking before that you hope for somebody to come who can carry on his message, but what will his legacy be? What will people remember him for, or at least what will you remember him for specifically?
His personal touch, just as he made me feel special. There were hundreds of preachers around the country, I'm sure, that we were able not to call him Reverend Jackson, but Jesse. And that alone made you feel a part of what he was doing. So his legacy, I think, will live on because he made everybody close or involved feel like that he knew you and you knew him, And we were all in this together.
You know, if you were talking to a real young person who doesn't quite, they recognize the name, but they didn't get a chance to see him speak. They didn't get a chance to experience that fire that you've been talking about. What do you wish they'd take away knowing about Reverend Jackson?
I would hope that they would recognize that their ministry goes beyond the walls of their church. To be a successful pastor, a successful minister, that the community becomes your congregation and not just those who are members of your church. I would hope that they would see in Reverend Jackson the need to be a community pastor rather than a local church pastor. That they would understand that their call to ministry is a call from God, that you're not always understood, you're not always appreciated, but if you feel that God's call, you have the nerve, the audacity to do it, even though many times you have to do it alone. He'll be missed, and I just hope and pray that we have someone that comes along that can pick that mantle up.
For First Alert 4, I'm Avery Martinez.